Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Renegade Operative, and I'd like to welcome you back to that old familiar fear. We're stepping onto the pavement yet again as the titular character Harry Mason to revisit a town far beyond redemption. This is my full review for Silent Hill, released for the Sony PlayStation platform back in 1999. Silent Hill was created by Konami Computer Entertainment Japan as a countermeasure against Capcom's very own survival horror classic, Resident Evil. Development harbored no confidence from the publishers themselves, who sent this project to die as an ill-fated zombie-like experience. Team Silent almost acted like defiant dogs who bit the hands of the masters that were feeding them. They decided to take resources that were molded from other survival horror games whilst brainstorming unique properties to stand out amongst the curve. It's very easy to see that there was a mountain of themes that were taken to formulate Silent Hill into what it is. It's a giant amalgamation of horror, ranging from ideas from Stanley Kubrick to Stephen King, and then you have other authors like Junji Ito. They took inspiration from him, and they also took inspiration from a particular movie called Jacob's Ladder. This is where a soldier returns from the war, and he sees these dreamlike, nightmarish delusions formulate around him, and then the big twist at the end of the movie is that you find out he is discovered dead, and this was just like an afterlife thought before he actually died. And this is the main inspiration for Silent Hill, along with these derelict old towns and all this stuff going on around you that makes the experience more surreal than you could ever imagine. I think it's easy to agree here that this is when the team hit gold on notions that feature psychological tension, atmosphere, symbolism, and immersion. Silent Hill is a horror game that utilizes a third-person dynamic camera angle when twisting through the vast townscape. You'll mostly be exploring for clues centered on the disappearance of Harry's daughter, Cheryl Mason. The valorous father crashed his car due to another mysterious girl trying to cross the intersection. Once Harry awakes, this is where the game begins, and by default, you start to see how this game carves out its own established identity. It's like a wide linear space when going from point A and taking the really long way to get to point B. Traversing the town warrants things like hidden areas to pick up extra supplies or find information as to what to expect on your next encounter. One ingenious idea centered on the very first boss encounter within the game. For example, you could pick up a storybook premise that signifies a lizard could be defeated with a well-placed shot to the mouth. However, the lizard could also devour you in one bite if you aren't quick enough to hit your target. All of these factor into the actual fight, which could be seen as trial versus tribulation. This instance had me looking under every nook and cranny to find clues for what I needed for story context, or to solve the numerous puzzles in the game that stumped me in a pretty good way. Silent Hill does these things well to keep things immersive. It doesn't feel like a boring, trivial slog to get through. There was, of course, dynamic activities going on, and these activities kept me hungering for more. The only exception was, of course, Kaufman's fetch quest, because I really rarely like fetch quests in video games, and I felt like that padded out the good plus ending far more than I really desired. With the exploring bit out of the way, I wanted to focus on the core gameplay itself. It's a little dated going back to this game now, with stiff animations, slow rotational turns, etc. Whether you like it or not, I felt like, in my opinion, Silent Hill does have a janky can of worms to unearth as we chat about the controls and the movements. I know this game tries to compensate by having 2D and 3D controls. Sometimes it's just not enough. There are times where the camera tries to swerve back in position in a long corridor, which can make it a little hard to see. Konami also tried to compensate for this by having the triggers recenter the camera, but it's just not that fantastic. Couple that in with a few stingy animations where it takes too long to complete a certain action, and this formulates into a half-baked recipe recipe that tastes like it needed to be more refined over time than anything else. That still doesn't stop the game from being thoroughly fundamental when all of these pieces coalesce for a fantastic ride. Some stiff movement aside, I will say that a good bulk is serviceable for combat schematics. It might sound underwhelming to just be stationary while smashing a humanoid nurse in the brain pan with an emergency hammer, but I found this immensely enjoyable. It does function somewhat decently, as Harry could do things like walking and shooting that Capcom couldn't even dream of at this point in time. Man, I gotta stop throwing some shade at RE. Konami really did do it first though, because Outbreak had walking and shooting, and that wasn't until the early 2000s. Go figure. I love both franchises though, so don't take this skit too personally. This game feels like a twisted hodgepodge of action that could either work in your favor or it will frustrate you severely if you can't escape while being mauled in the corner. The map is one highly convenient resource that will mark off areas once you examine them, like a door or an alleyway, the works. You'll run into these tropes a lot, which could be seen as minor nitpicks, aka shit gets rusty and all doors are locked in this motherfucker. The boss battles seem to formulate between astronomically easy or damaging kill tanks like the final encounter. This circulates around an aerial boss that can shred your health like some wet mongoose meat. Hey, if your supplies run dry, then the game will automatically kill the final boss for you. Try it, it'll make your life easier without even batting an eyelid. The graphics are really good for what this game tried to accomplish back in 1999 with more open examination. The light fog and snow that covers the city serves as an allegory to entice players with presentation. The street signs that show fake names like Stephen King names or pseudonyms are littered on the city choke points with each bloody footstep. The crumbling streets that Harry runs into shows a larger case involving foul play, and the monsters themselves look bloody disgusting at certain points in the game. This is a game that looked absolutely incredible for its time, and this was only heightened by the work that was put into the amazing full motion videos when a cutscene was encountered. The replay value is really a multi-layered idea because Silent Hill has more replay value than you think it has. If you're not going for the perfect star rankings, you could retry New Fear mode. New Fear is like New Game Plus in a sense. It allows you to utilize these weapons that you probably saw lying around on your first run. These special weapons could not be operated in some way, shape, or fashion. This mode triggers those objects to become viable now, and it means that you can find a rock drill, put some fuel in it, and completely maul through enemies. You can find a ceremonial katana and do a little slice and dice. Probably not going to be chopping up any fruit in this game, but I'm sure you're going to find some use for it. There's also notions involving different endings, which range from bad to good and variants in between. If you want to get plundered by aliens, then there's some joke ending that requires you to find these separate channeling stones and activate them in certain locations in order to get abducted. My only gripe with the replay value is that I wish there was some extra costume system like there was in Resident Evil. Silent Hill 3 fixed this, but damn, some extra incentive in the first game really wouldn't hurt at all. Either way, you'll be getting your money's worth with this game for sure, and all that adds up with a campaign that I completed in 7 to 9 hours on my first run ever. The sound design is one of the most unnerving things about this game. From the surreal horror noise, squirms, and grunts to the surreal soundtrack done by Akira Yamaoka. We gotta talk about this man. This man right here is a legend. He's an icon. He's been the bread and the butter of the Silent Hill franchise for years. I would even say that any resemblance to quality in a Silent Hill soundtrack immediately goes out of the window if Akira Yamaoka is not in the picture. He is that damn good. I am giving my respect on that 100% completely. It serves its purpose correctly since the OST can go from pulse pounding to eerie and very melodic in a nanosecond. I saved the story section as the best for last. If you don't want to be spoiled, then I would recommend clicking off this video right about now. I'll try to keep everything relatively brief so this video won't go on for an eternity. Just keep in mind that Silent Hill lore is definitely deep. Harry Mason is a father that crashes on the side of the road. His daughter, Cheryl Mason, goes missing into the misty fog from Silent Hill. Harry then goes after his daughter Cheryl, slowly finding out that this town is thoroughly infested with demonic creatures. Over time, you realize that cult-like figures called the Order were behind many events within the town. One of the overarching stories involves a tragedy with a character named Alyssa Gillespie. She was a child that was sacrificed by her mother in order to birth a god. Alyssa was an extremely tormented kid in elementary school due to her dark origins. Usually these kids would scratch out obscene things on her desk like "kill yourself," "die," and "you don't belong in this classroom with us." Alyssa had a strange supernatural power even as a child, and she utilized those powers to protect herself. All this immense bullying came to a head when Alyssa is nearly burned to death in a fire. Reports say that it was a freak accident, which is all covered up by the Order themselves. These completely wacko freaks needed a great deal of flame in order to make this ritual happen, and Alyssa was pregnant for years. She was pregnant with God, and she lost a piece of her happiness, a piece of her soul, as the ritual caused this missing spirit to manifest as a baby left on the roadway. This baby was Cheryl Mason, who was discovered by Harry Mason earlier in the intro. The big twist is that Alyssa and Cheryl are one and the same. They are missing souls from each other. So in order to unify them again, rebirth God, and make sure everything goes well, Dahlia Gillespie tries to lure the soul back by using several incantations. The plan is botched when her daughter finally decides to fight back, killing her original body in the process and casting the town in fog in order to delay the Order. Alyssa's thoughts really seem to be causing most of the creatures or fog to spiral out of control within the town. Eventually both souls recombine, leading to a final climactic battle as Cheryl is reborn into a whole different entity. Depending on the ending that you receive, you either fight the Incubus, which is a giant demon, after I think Kaufman throws some red mist on it, or you fight the Incubator, which is like a maiden, a deity. If you kill this deity in the bad ending, that means that you have killed Cheryl Mason, your daughter is dead, all hope is lost. If you kill the Incubus, then a new child is formulated, and that child's name is Heather Mason. Heather Mason is the recombined, reincarnated soul of Cheryl Mason and Alyssa Gillespie. This all will factor into the timeline later as we finally get to Silent Hill 3, but not right now. Harry then escapes with the unborn baby, questioning his unforeseen future with his new responsibility at hand. Silent Hill is a very symbolism-based game. It is very symbolism-heavy. It is a surreal experience. It deals with some very heavy-handed subject matter. This involves bullying, occultism, religion, and sacrifice. This is really what makes it so unique, so intriguing from other survival horror games where you have to shoot and kill monsters. It's all a psychological purpose, this mound of moving parts that leaves you with more questions than answers. That's the beauty of the surrounding nature of Silent Hill 1. It makes you question the very world. It makes you question the sanity of these characters with each waking revelation as they are victims in their own personal hell. These twists come from nowhere. The characters feel uneasy, and it leaves you wanting so much more as you continue to play. You even have options to kill the supporting cast if you don't do a certain action, which is almost like a choose your own adventure style being done at the same time. This all attributes to what kind of ending you will receive in the game. For example, if you don't use the red liquid on Sybil, then you will be forced to kill her with no way out. If you decide to pull the trigger, then this happens. absolutely 100% unsettling. In conclusion, it's not abnormal to say that Silent Hill isn't a stellar classic in the PlayStation library. I would even say it's not even short of being a masterpiece. You just have some middling animations to deal with as an exception. It's very well paced, it's well done, it makes unique horror decisions, and it has a vast story to uncover. For Team Silent's first rodeo, I would say that you could bet your ass that they scored a home run. I give Silent Hill 1 an 8.7 out of 10. This is Renegade Operative signing off. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed this video. Not much to say. I put a lot of effort into this one. Hopefully you guys really enjoyed it. Slap that like button. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Silent Hill 1. Do you want me to cover the rest of the series in terms of a review? I might cover it anyway, because why the fuck not, right? I love Silent Hill. You love Silent Hill. Let's still rediscover what is left there. Anyway, if you want to follow me in social media, check out my horror Discord, all that good stuff. You will find that in the description below. Check me out, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I will see you guys next time. Have a safe day. I love you all. Take care and see you later.